Hello, how are you today? I'm excited. I have a wonderful opportunity to bring to you a very special person, someone who has decided that I must be interviewed. And being that I'm a public servant, I'm very obedient. So I want to cut my remarks short and bring to you Loreal Scott, Esquire. It is my joy to have you here. And you offer to do this as if you have nothing else to do. Nothing else to do.
There's
So
no other place I would rather be.
I'm just so happy that you're here. So I'm not going to talk much. I want you to interview me. So it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. Thank you for allowing me to join you on the journey. I am so excited and humbled to be here to have the opportunity to interview you. You are a living legend. Of
Thank you.
course, we had to interview you on your show. This was a no brainer.
Oh, my.
So I'm delighted at the opportunity, and I know time is of the essence. We're going to jump right on into this. As one of our living legends, I know you were born in Alabama,
Yes.
but tell us a little bit more about your journey. I want to talk to the viewers to get them to know a little bit more about your beginnings, your career paths, and ultimately, of course, all of these wonderful accomplishments you achieved throughout your career, highlighting those key points. If we could dive into your journey, tell
Well,
us
let's
about it.
go. You're right. I was 9 months old when I came to Miami. So I knew very little about Alabama
Wow.
until my mom would take me, my younger brother, and my younger sister to visit our grandparents. But at about the time that most children would be happy in a place of what I would call refuge, we came to Miami at 9 months old, as I said. And then we were evicted when I was 3 years old. So that's the first part of my childhood. And the special place where we lived is now, well, they now call it Alapata, but not necessarily Alapata. When I was growing up, it was called Railroad Shop, Colored Edition. I was evicted from that place, 37 families, and some of the families you know well. One in particular would be the Breenans. They were living there, and of course, a very special person who's no longer with us, Georgia Jones Ayers. So it's a great history there. My home was where the Congresswoman Carrie P. Meeks Cultural Arts Center is right now.
Oh,
I
wow.
did I was a moderator Saturday for uh, I want to say the National Council of Negro Women, and I told them we were sitting and standing in my living room. So that's part of it. We were evicted from there so that they could build schools for others. And that's how my spirituality works when I say, look at God. The young lady, the little girl who was evicted from Railroad Shop Colored Edition so that they could build houses and schools for others, now sits on the school board.
And look at that.
And
And
look at
look at
that.
God.
So
And
look
look.
at God. So that's part of it. And of course, you might know another part would be that when I was evicted, we moved to Liberty Square housing projects. Again, look at God.
Look at him.
We moved there and then we were evicted from there. I was a student at Liberty City Elementary all of my growing up there, and I was given an opportunity to show that I was extremely bright. I didn't know that, but my family said I was, my mom, my dad, my teachers. I took a test. That test was called the Achievement Test, Stanford Achievement Test. I scored so high that they decided they were going to test me at least 3 times. And the last time I was tested, they sent individuals from the superintendent's office to proctor me. I was the only little person sitting in the cafeteria taking a test because I scored high. But the thing that really touched me, as they told me the story, when each time I took it, Loreal, I scored higher. So they decided, well, we can't teach her anything else over here at Liberty City Elementary. We're going to send her to, at that time, junior high school. That's part of it. Went there. Graduated early from Northwestern, then went to Tuskegee, and that's where I met Tisha's father, my freshman year. And from there, we were married, military. He was an officer in the Army, and we had Tish. And before long, he was sent to Vietnam, and that's pretty much the early part of my life.
Wow.
Yes.
From an eviction to graduation at Tuskegee and having Tish. So at what point did you come back to Miami?
We came back to Miami after, I want to get it straight, after he went to Vietnam, we came back here to live, and I came back here to teach. But I could not go anywhere else because it was home, and even though I'd done all these things, my mom and my family, remember I'm from one of 7,
Right.
but I was the first girl, and I never grew up to be the lady, the woman. They wanted me home, so I came back and I started teaching. And I stayed here to teach, but after a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5, we moved from here to Augusta, Georgia, and we spent time there. But I came back because I felt, you know, having had the wonderful childhood that I felt that I had to come home and teach.
But that's amazing that you had that inclination to come back home. A lot of times we hear about this brain drain that a lot of our talented students leave Miami for what they view as greener pastures.
Yes,
Atlanta is usually the go-to, to pick on Atlanta. But you saw fit to come back.
Yes, partly because I had the best teachers ever. Remember the story about my taking the test and doing extremely well. Nonetheless, the person, I'm digressing now, the person who saw this gift in me was not my classroom teacher. It was Nancy Dawkins.
Really?
Nancy would see me going down the corridor to do my announcements. I've been on radio since I was 7 years old. And she would say, "Where you going, little girl?" And I would look at her, "Miss Dawkins, I'm going to do the announcements." So I was doing that. My teachers, my principals, everybody thought I was extremely bright. But there were people who couldn't understand, how could I be so bright? Remember, I've been evicted twice.
Right.
And if you live in public housing, you're on welfare.
Right.
So how dare you be bright? But she saw it, and she was the very first one to say to the powers that be, she cannot learn anything else here. We've got to send her on. So that was part of it, and I remember them as if it were yesterday. I had to come home to teach, and from there, I became a reading specialist. I taught children who could not read at all, families of children.
Okay.
I did that for 7 years, and at the end of the 7th year, I didn't have a job, but that was the goal.
What does that mean, you didn't have a job?
I didn't, because everybody I taught learned to read.
Wow.
So I stayed there for a little while, and then I got promoted as a supervisor for schools that were in neighborhoods that were not well looked after and not receiving, in my opinion, their fair share of everything. So it gave me an opportunity to grow from being a supervisor of community education, then being, of course, an assistant principal, being a principal, then here we go.
So ultimately, after you were a principal, you made the decision to run for state representative for District 109.
109.
And that was back in 2000.
It was 1999.
1999 you ran, but your term started in 2000.
2000, yes.
So what made you make that decision to go into public service? Well, teaching is public service.
It is.
I guess the elected official is just another prong of that. What made you make that change?
You ever heard of the lady called Carrie P. Meek?
The all great,
Oh my
our
God.
soror,
Oh my
pioneer in Miami. Yes, of course. I understand she's your mentor, or
Oh,
was your mentor.
more than. She called me one night. I was a principal. And my rule was and is, unless it's an emergency, don't call me after 9 o'clock. I have to get my rest. So she called. Well, she didn't really make the call. Kendrick made the call.
Okay.
And he said, "Ms. Mindingall, I know it's late." It was 9 o'clock. I said, "Yeah, whatever it is you want to tell me, can it wait until tomorrow?" He said, "Mama wants to talk to you." I sat up in the bed. I said, "Okay." She came to the phone and she said, Honorable, I want you to run for office. I said, no, who's going to take care of my children? You know, I had almost 1,000 kids in my school. And she said, I want you to run for office. The kind of work that you do out there, I would hit the streets, Loreal, every day. If children didn't come to school, I would go get them.
Right.
Unheard of.
Right.
She said, those people love you out there, and they will vote for you. So I agreed. She voluntold me, I didn't volunteer. So
Sometimes
I agreed.
that's what it takes.
That's
right?
what it
is
takes.
being voluntold.
Yes, and so from there, it felt really, really good. There were 9 people in that race.
Really?
Yeah, and I had never run for office. There were 9.
That is a lot of people.
A lot of people. But I had the best people supporting me, the Congresswoman, and of course Kendrick. And my children and my parents, they ran my campaign, and we won, and here we are.
So I want to talk a little bit more about Carrie Meek, the
Okay.
late great. So sometimes it takes someone voluntolding you,
Yes,
right? We'll
yes,
make up a word, and seeing in you what you might not have seen in yourself at the time, right? But for someone like Carrie Meek took over Gwyneth Cherry's
That's
seat
it.
when she passed away. So how did you feel getting that call from your friend, someone you admired, your mentor, and her encouraging you, strongly encouraging you to run? How did that make you feel?
It made me feel really, really good to know that she saw in me what you just said, what I didn't see. I never wanted to be in quote unquote politics.
Right.
I didn't see that. I didn't feel that was the place for me, but she did. So she pushed, she raised money, she walked with me, she talked with me, she went to church with me. She did everything that she would do. And let me just for a minute, when you mentioned Gwen Cherry, she was my teacher.
Really?
She was my teacher.
I didn't know that.
I have a beautiful painting of
Wow.
Gwen, Dorothy, and Carrie in my office.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But I felt good, getting back to what I was saying. I felt good. A lot of people knew her, but she was very particular about those people whom she would say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, because she would do it first.
Right.
But to have someone tell me that the night before I've got to go back to school to make sure my children are eating, because remember now, almost every child in my school was on welfare. So I could not mess around in the mornings. I had to get up, get dressed, and get to the school. And she knew all of this. I hired parents of my children who had never had a job.
You told me this, and we were campaigning
Yes.
for you. So tell everyone what school you were the principal at.
I
at
was
that
the
time.
principal at Lily Carmichael Evans Elementary School in the heart of Liberty City, 1895 Northwest 75th Street.
The heart of the city.
The heart of it. And that was the best opportunity that I had to prove what my heart told me. Those children are now children such as Commissioner Keon Hardeman.
Look at that.
Yes, and then we have Kendrick, who was not a student but out there all the time, and he was a highway patrolman at the time. I have a good number of people, those whom I feel strongly that I played a role in their lives as Carrie played in mine.
So your parents from your school, believed in you so much that they were campaigning for you.
For nothing.
In a 9-person race, you came out victorious.
Yes.
You went to Tallahassee and continued to shake up the establishment, as they say. You became the first chair of the Commission on African American
Affairs.
You were appointed by Governor Lawton Childs.
Yes.
Tell us more about that experience.
Well, that was another something, as they said, the free job, because I would have to leave school, go to Tallahassee, get with the African Americans who were appointed by someone in their communities, and of course, elected officials, and we traveled around the state talking about issues that we're still talking about. But what touched me so was the fact that we were able to pass a law. We were able to give the law to our Black Caucus members. They passed it, because if you're not elected, of course, you know you can't pass anything.
Right.
That same law that we passed is still on the books. And from what I was told, we need to take another look at it. And I will, because it was about teaching African and African American history. And our Jewish brothers and sisters attached an amendment for us to teach their history. So I know something is amiss right now when we get when we're told what we can and can't teach our children, we have to take another look at that. But Lawton Childs was the one who appointed me. Did he know me? No. But remember, Carrie Meek knew me. So Carrie Meek would take to whatever, Lawton, and we would be invited over to the mansion, and that was fine. But we were always about the business of teaching African and African American history.
And because of the bill that you got passed back then, when I was in middle school, we took a course on African history at my predominantly white Jewish middle school, Highland Oaks Middle School.
Yes.
And surprisingly, but not surprisingly, that class was full of majority us. But, we learned amazing things about our history. We come from kings and queens. We learned the cities on the map. And thank you.
You're very welcome. I did not
you.
know that. My sister who has passed away, her daughter, and you might know her name is Joyce Roberta Fortune.
Sounds familiar.
Bertie went to, Katanji. Her mom was the principal, Ellery Ross Brown. They knew more history than most children. I mentioned that because of what you just said. She went to Highland Oaks, and they learned it. So it doesn't hurt.
We did.
And we're still going to look at what's happening.
It was an elective, but, we had the opportunity to take it. I would love to see us re-examine that law and for it to be a required course.
We will look at it.
But we know that that's a conversation for another time.
Absolutely.
So you were in Tallahassee Wrecking Shop, right? Shaking up the establishment. And you served until about 2008.
2008, I termed out, yes.
Term limits. So, but for term limits, do you think you would have continued serving beyond 2008?
I would have.
Absolutely.
I would have, but let me tell you something that really, really, really prompted me to run for the school board. I thought it was a natural order of things. I gave you my history, my background. I'd gone to Tallahassee to be a state representative, and then I come home, and I'm told, you need to run for the school board. You need to run. And my mom was alive at the time, and is forever precious. She would always ask me, well, what are you going to do now, honey? No one saw me sitting down doing nothing. So I said, well, Mama, you have to say Mama. I said, I'm going to run for the school board. I mean, it just popped up. She said, you'll win. I said, how do you know? She said, because the children like you.
Aww.
So here I am.
So you were told to run? Who told you to run? Did you get volunteered again?
Well, my mom was pretty much there pushing me out the door, because she knew I did not want to just sit.
Right.
But we had five candidates in that race.
You seem to draw crowded races.
How about
so
that?
that was in 2010.
Yes.
So you had at least 2 years to recuperate from Tallahassee.
I did, yes.
Okay.
In fact, I filed my paperwork on my birthday in 2010.
Really?
And, I had some formidable opponents, but Carrie was still alive, and she would say to me, you're going to win. And speaking of honorable, she gave me that name. We were in her home. She loved to have parties. And I heard someone say, honorable, I need you to get something for me. Well, I'm just sitting there because at that time I was a state representative. And she said, I'm talking to you. And it never left. Everyone, pretty much calls me honorable. Yeah.
So in 2010, you cleared another race. This time it was 5 people.
Yes.
And you've been serving the school board since then, District 2. Your current term doesn't expire till 2026.
Yes.
Are you running for re-election again?
I'll let you know. There comes a time that you might want to go to an island and have the beautiful children come and sit and look at you and think you're really a queen. There comes a time. So we're going to see. My goal is to, of course, recruit and train. I want to make sure that there are those who understand the issues. There will be those who will say, well, remember, I want to run for office. So what have you done? What are you doing? What do you know? It's not something that you should be. You're not learning on the job. You should know something about something. And the district It's one of the poorest districts in the state, but then one of the richest districts in the state. You've seen the boundaries,
Right.
and you just can't come in there and say, well, I'm going to sit up here and take some time to learn this. No, you start studying earlier
Right.
than you would expect. A lot of people don't, because there are board members, and no disrespect, who are appointed. And if you are appointed, that means pretty much you did not start studying. You just got a call
Right.
and said you're going to be appointed to this seat.
We see in a lot of different political arenas, whether it's the judicial arena or politics, school board, municipalities, county commission, folks who run who might not necessarily have the experience or the background. So to that end, you mentioned your great mentors, and you want to make sure that you groom someone to take over for District 2. What does that look like?
Well, it doesn't look as good as I would want it, because the landscape is changing, and I want us to be represented, just to be transparent.
Right.
But it looks as if we might not always have that seat. Remember, we had single member districts. We have them. But if you don't have them, I don't know what we would do, because the landscape has changed, the communities have changed, and sometimes hearts have changed. Do you want to have someone representing you? Yes. I'm very transparent about that, very open about it. I tell you, no disrespect to anyone, but I love the fact that when the kids come to see me, they say, she is real.
Right.
She looks like me.
So the redistricting and that concern, we see it's also playing out currently in the city of Miami. And,
Yes.
and that is another hot topic.
Yeah.
But as far as mentorship in the African American community, the Black community in Miami, because when we say Black, we're talking about Caribbean Americans
Yes,
and
absolutely.
African Americans. Do you feel that we're doing a good enough job mentoring future leaders to take over positions in the various political arenas, or do you feel that we have some work to do?
We have lots of work to do, and I say that because our children are watching us, but they will tell you in a heartbeat, Honorable, I don't want to do that. That's not a nice place to be. And thus we have to teach them the history. It has never been a nice place to be for some people,
Right.
but we have to go in and to lift each other up and stand. We cannot roll over and have anyone think someone is not ready. I have 3 people that I'm talking to, and I keep one of them. She travels to different events, and she was with me on Saturday, and I didn't call her out because she would always, well, remember, why you keep telling people I'm running for your seat? So I told her Saturday, I said, I won't mention it, but she would make she is one of our assistant principals, but she is ready, set, go. She grew up in Brown Sub.
Awesome.
She's a teenage mother.
Really?
Now she has her master's and going on for her doctorate. Her daughter is doing just fine, the one she had at 15, and then she has her granddaughter. She would be perfect. She knows the struggle.
Right.
Then I have a young man who keeps saying to me, he's 3rd generation from Railroad Shop, and I'm going to be calling him when I stop talking with you and tell him that we want to have another conversation. I mention him because right now there is another city that's trying to annex Brownsville.
Right.
We can't sit on that. I'll be out there tonight, but he is working very, very, very hard, and he's young, so he has a lot of time left, but they see how I work 24/7, and they don't want to. They really don't want to. They think that, well, I don't have to do it. Let someone else do it. No, you do it.
So Miami's also very interested in that we're a transplant city. The 2 people that you mentioned, it sounds like they have roots here.
They do.
Right. Why do you think that's important to select, especially school board members who have roots in the community that they claim that they want to serve?
And their roots include being educated here. So they know the history. They know that if they don't sit there, the history might be wiped out. Because right now, as I said, we will talk again about what's happening in terms of teaching
Right.
the history. That's why we are here today, because I want in some way, might be a small way to people, but it's a big way to me, that we talk about the history. We talk about Dade County. We talk about Miami. And some of us, as you said, transplant, but I was 9 months old, so I don't consider being that. But the idea that we have children who say, I don't want to do that. And I said children because here you are, and then there's my daughter, Tish. You all are children. And you all should not wake up in the mornings thinking, God, we got to fight that fight again. So, but I'm training, and you know, if I have to do as Carrie did to me and others, you would have to go to her house and sit at the table with your pen, paper, books, and she would teach you how to do it.
Well, 9 months old, we adopt you as your own, as our own. Being a Miami native,
Yes.
growing up here in Miami,
Yes.
there's no place like home for me.
Right.
And I do understand the value of having people like you and people, the Carrie Meeks, the Gwen S. Cherries, the H.T. Smith, Marilyn, all of these folks who actually have roots in this community, who
Yes.
continue to advocate and serve. You are our living legends.
Thank you.
Now, I know we're almost short for time.
Yeah.
You've had so many accomplishments over your career, so many highlights. I mean, just to name the few, you started the Labor of Love, No More Broken Hearts, the Positive African American Role Models. Most recently in June of 2018, the Brownville Resource Center was renamed in your honor as a social and economic institute. Can you tell us a little bit more about your partnership with the Circle of Brotherhood?
Be happy to. The young men and others who occupy that building every day are returning citizens. They found that they needed a place to sit down and discuss the special needs I know of the community. And they said to me, if you could help us find a building. Well, that's not what I do. That's not on my resume. But when they asked, I said, okay, I'll do what I can. Awesome. We had, at that time, several wonderful people on senior staff. And being a board member has its, little opportunities to get things done. I asked for a building for them, and they showed me this building. And the school had been closed for about 5 years, and it looked like a real jungle out there. So Leroy Jones came to me, and he said, board member, if you just help us get it, we'll make you proud. They cleaned that place, and I'll tell you one story that really touched me. We walked the campus, and there was this gentleman building a butterfly garden. And someone was with us and said, butterflies would never come out here because it's brown sub. And as soon as he got that out of his mouth, butterfly came. So we worked on it and worked on it and worked on it with the cooperation of the county. We were able to get that building, and it is simply beautiful. And they invited me to an event. I knew nothing. And I looked around, and the place was packed. So I said, well, what's going on? And Leroy comes up there, and Leroy's the leader, and Leroy has served his time along with all of the other guys, and he's such an humble spirit. And he came up there, board member, I want to show you something. So we marched everybody out of the auditorium, and Loreal, I looked up, this huge picture of me, the Dr. Dorothy Bendross-Mindingall Social and Economic Institute.
Wow.
That's what they do.
Wow.
And I looked at that, and I looked at that, and I said, Leroy, he said, this is the only school in Dade County with a picture of someone on it. Names, yes, but not a picture. Anyone who comes by there, they would say, oh, that's the board member. And that's how it happened.
They've definitely cleaned up that facility, and I could attest to that. And the butterfly garden is gorgeous.
I'm telling you.
So what a beautiful monument
what
to
it
you.
is. That's what it is.
But listen, there's a song that says, "Let the life I live speak for me." And we talked about all of your accomplishments and career highlights. What would you say is your most important accomplishment?
My daughter.
Tell us more about Tish.
My twin.
She definitely is, by the way. Definitely.
Oh my God, Loreal, don't make me tear up. I came from a big family, as I said. And I really, really, really wanted about 4 children. But since her dad was a military man, we were moving every 18 months. And I said, I can't do this. I can't drag children around. She has been the delight of my joy. Everything that someone can do to make their parents happy, she has done it. When I talk to people about me going to school and skipping grades and all of that, she did that. She went to Spelman, the light of her life, because I wanted her to go to Tuskegee. Remember, her dad and I went to Tuskegee, but her dad is from Tuskegee. And lo and behold, she said, no, I'm going to Spelman. She went to Spelman and just went right out. So she would tease me and say, Mommy, you owe me money. I said, well, you know, we'll talk about that. But she has been, I would say, working, employed since she was about 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she's an only child. And, you know, I did not want her to do that. Well, hey, why not? She has this gift, and I know you remember him, Howard Gary.
Yes.
That's my adopted brother, and of course, that was Uncle Howie. So he told her when she was getting an award at school, tell your mama to call me. Well, the kids teased her and say, he wants to talk to your mama. You know, kids. So he wanted to talk to me about her working at the city of Miami.
Wow.
And that's where she is now, doing extremely well, or really well. And I have to stop there because she's going to say to me, you just couldn't stop talking, could you?
Well, I'll help you with that.
Okay.
So not only is she working at the city of Miami, but similar to you, she has a servant leader heart and mentality. For the million years that I've known her, she's been very involved in our Delta chapter social action committee.
Yes.
She's very involved in everything community service. I know she helps you with No More Broken Hearts.
Yes, she does.
And you did an amazing job because she's definitely walking in your footsteps. You instilled in her the importance of public service, of giving back to your community, of mentoring others. She was a blessing to me when I came back home.
Oh, look at that.
No, she really was. She was very welcoming to me.
Well, that's how I got to know you.
It's through Tish.
Through Tish.
Absolutely right. It's absolutely right.
Yes.
So you did an amazing job, and you should be
you.
very proud. Don't cry, though. We're
Okay,
almost
okay. I know.
So I know we're getting the countdown here, but there are so many other topics that I really want to explore with you. I can't wait to circle back on that legislation and unpack some of these other issues. We are living in very interesting times.
Yes, we are.
But that's why we need servant leaders like you to continue to champion the cause and pave the way for us. So from this Miami girl to you, thank you so much again for all that you've done and all you continue to do for us.
And if you find someone who wants to travel this journey that includes being a public servant, send them my way. And thank you.
I will.
It was your idea. I told someone, only Loreal. I don't know if you remember when you said, I want to interview you.
Yes.
I'll never forget that, and Tish reminded me this morning.
Yes.
So part 2, it will be a part 2.
Oh, most definitely.
Yes, so maybe we'll get her to come in. And,
we'll have
share.
to. After she sees this, she's going to want to come.
She's going to want to?
She's gonna
Okay.
wanna come.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you
my
again.
Sora.
Thank
Thank
you, my
you.
Sora.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.